And we're live. Welcome to The Modern Romantic, where we celebrate romanticism through passionate people doing incredible things. Hi, I'm Emily. And this is my co-host, Trey.
Hi.
And today we have a guest with us that Trey would love to introduce. Wouldn't you, Trey?
I would love to. I have been waiting for this for a while. So, tonight's special guest is an incredibly gifted actor and singer, gracing international opera stages, musical theater venues, and countless other mediums. He truly embodies the award of Most Innovative Singer. Ladies and gentlemen, artistes and aristocrats, please welcome Grammy Award winner Zachary James.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Of course. So nice to be here.
So first and foremost, let me just say, you are a traveling person. You were in London about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
You were in Florida recently, and now you're in Arkansas. Florida recently. How frequently do you travel?
Like every week. Yeah. Yeah. I was just in Mexico City too, before Florida. So yeah, I get around.
I think that's kind of an understatement.
Yeah.
When
I'm
you were-
happiest traveling. It's a weird affliction, but it's fun.
And you were in London recently, too. How was that?
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was my fourth time working in London at English National Opera, and they've been going through a lot of big upheaval lately. So this time I was kind of like, ooh, I hope this isn't my last time with them, but it was a very memorable experience this time around for sure.
Cool.
What was this, the production in London?
Akhenaten, the Philip Glass opera that I've been doing for, I guess, 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, off and on since 2016. Yeah, it was our third revival of Akhenaten at English National Opera since 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask, what got you started with Akhenaten?
So it kind of goes back to my last Broadway show, which was The Addams Family. When I was doing that, the director of that show, Phelan McDermott, asked me to audition for Philip Glass for a new opera that he was writing called The Perfect American about Walt Disney. And they needed somebody to play a robotic Abraham Lincoln at Disneyland. So they called me and I got the role, and it was super cool. But it got me into the Philip Glass world. So a couple years later, they were putting on this new production of Akhenaten, and they didn't know what to do with this particular role because it's a speaking role, and it was a co-production with LA Opera, and LA wanted a celebrity, so they were asking like John Malkovich and Tilda Swinton to do it, and they either said no or didn't respond. And so about a week before the first rehearsal for this production, I got a Facebook message from Phelan McDermott as I was grocery shopping, and I was reaching for a bag of frozen peas, and I get this message, and I drop the peas and pick it up, and it's like, hey, what are you doing next week? Can you come to London? Do you know how to juggle? And I was like, yeah. And then I took a couple juggling lessons because I certainly didn't know how to juggle. And and then I was in Akhenaten. And I didn't know at the time it would, change my life and, bring a Grammy, and that I'd be doing it for 8 years. I thought it was just like, oh, I'm going to go just do the show for a couple of weeks in London. But here we are, still doing it.
I love that you remember the bag of peas part.
Always, yeah. I remember everything about the weird moments where your life changes.
Yeah.
And you don't know it's going to change, but something tells you to hold on to those memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in hindsight, you're like, peas. Yeah.
Peas. Please, somebody clip that. That is
I got you.
So, two questions. One, because you've been traveling and this is your fourth time back to London for this production, do you have any favorite spots that you like to travel to?
In London specifically, or worldwide, or?
Both.
Both. Well, I love London. It feels like home because I've spent so much of, I spent like over a year of my life there in the last 10 years doing Philip Glass operas at English National Opera. So it's kind of weird. But I'm kind of a weird tourist in that I don't, everyone's like, oh, what restaurants are you going to, blah blah, and I'm like, I'm eating protein bars and I walked 20 miles today. Like that's kind of my tourism, is I just go out on foot and I like to see everything in every street, and I like to leave a place feeling like I know every nook and cranny, and that if you drop me in the middle of it, I would know where I am and how to make my way out. So I'm very much like a big walker, and I love walking London, the Thames, and around Covent Garden, and the museums there are amazing. They're all free entry, so it's a really cool place to just walk around and listen to people talk British at you. But yeah, I mean, traveling is my favorite thing, and I've been really privileged to go to so many places doing what I do. I would say highlights are Tokyo, Brisbane, Madrid, as far as like incredible experiences.
Yeah, didn't you do the Perfect American in Madrid?
Yes, yeah, we premiered there and then went to London and then went to Brisbane. Yeah, so yeah, it's weird looking back and you're like, oh, weird Philip Glass operas have showed me the world. Cool.
And along that same line, I do want to go back to one of the comments, because that I didn't realize that it was a robotic Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, like robot dance. That's
wow.
Yeah. That's why they were like, we need someone that isn't really in the opera world. We want a theater person who's like dance oriented and stuff. And I just was pretending like I knew how to sing over an orchestra without a microphone at that moment in my career.
So you've been Lurch in The Addams Family. You created the role of robotic Abraham Lincoln in Perfect American.
Yep.
And you've done all of these incredible performances. What was it like to be able to get to essentially create or be part of the creative process and creating new characters?
Oh, it's my favorite, and I've been in the room on a lot of new productions, some that you've heard of and some that will never be heard of again. That's the cool thing about new operas and musicals and plays, is you really don't know what's going to happen. Like you have no idea. The Perfect American we thought would be this huge sensation, and it was like 3 productions and done, dead in the water, and then Akhenaten keeps going and going. But I love being in the room with the composer, and I love when things are kind of tailor written for my voice, because I have a weird voice and it does weird things. And I love with especially living composers. I was recently in the room with Paola Prestini on a world premiere, and I've been with Missy Mazzoli on a piece, and they're like, what does your voice do? What's your high note? What's your low note? But what colors do you have? And what does it sound like one time I was asked, like, what does it sound like if you were about to see your friend get hit by a car? What's the noise you would make? And I was like, I just screamed like high pitched, and it was a note that if it were on the page, I would look at it and be like, I don't sing that note, but I actually can. I just didn't know, and
Sure.
It came out in like an emotional response, and then it was written in, and we performed it like that with that vocal gesture of yelling. And then like I get messages from other bass baritones who are doing the role, and they're like, how did you sing this high A flat? It's impossible. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you the story. You don't really sing it, just like scream, but it's fun. I love being behind the scenes and part of the creative process, and having input, and especially when you're asked and treated like an equal in the collaboration process. That's a really, really special experience, when it's truly collaboration and like all voices in the room get to contribute.
Because that was one of the things that I was thinking about. A lot of times I see more direction of actors and they get less of a voice, but
Yeah.
I love hearing that you get more of a voice in that room.
Yeah, I mean, it's hit and miss, honestly. In some pieces, your ideas aren't welcome, depending on who's behind the table, and some they're encouraged and sought after, and that's really rewarding. But similarly, on a new piece, it can be really frustrating when you're like workshopping it for 2 years, and you're like, I see what doesn't work, but my opinion is not welcome, and we all feel the same way. But I guess and then you get the reviews, and it's like everything you've been saying for 2 years is written up in reviews, and you're like, well, Nobody asked us. But yeah, it's tough sometimes.
One thing that I would also kind of like to know is I read somewhere that you are actually the son of a jazz guitarist and
Yeah.
that you originally wanted to be a band conductor. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wanted to be a high school marching band director. That was my big dream.
There's
So,
still time.
There is, yeah, yeah. No,
how?
yeah, I loved marching band so much. I realized after the fact that it was like the pageantry and the theater of it that I loved. It wasn't like playing snare drum.
Okay.
So, yeah, or education. I didn't actually want to be a band director, but
You went
I
the
just
right
wanted,
direction
I
then.
wanted to like twirl flags and wear costumes. So.
Did you play an instrument then?
Yeah, I played. I was general percussion. I did kind of everything, and then I was the drum major my senior year. And so I went to college for music education percussion, and lasted one semester before I transferred to the theater department.
Good move.
Yeah.
What made you transfer to the theater department?
Well, I couldn't pass my snare drum jury, and also there were at the same time as my jury, there were and I was like at a probationary status, by the way, so it was like a really important jury. Like I had to pass, or they were going to kick me out. That same week, there were auditions for a community theater production of Into the Woods, and I went to those. And I was like, if I get a part in this musical, I'm going to switch my major. And I got Rapunzel's Prince and switched my major. So, and I failed my snare jury. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But here we are, and that's
Here
what's
we are.
important.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But actually, so my high school band director recently retired, and I went back to my high school and I sang a concert for him with a couple other alum, and it was really special. And I told that story, and I was like, "You're the coolest man I've ever known, and because you're so cool, you fooled me into thinking I wanted to be a high school band director, but I really just thought you were cool and wanted to be like you. It wasn't
Oh,
the actual career path." Yeah. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
I bet he's really proud of you too.
He is. Yeah. No, he's awesome. He came up to the Met to see me in Akhenaten, and I asked for seats from my connection in the office, and she gave him and my high school chorus teacher the general director's box, which is like the best seat in the house.
Oh,
And
nice.
they were like, they thought they were royalty. You know, it's a really
That's
special
so
thing.
great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gosh.
that's awesome. So, well, what other paths of entertainment have you done then? And have you?
The paths of entertainment.
Well, like you've acted, you
Yeah.
sing,
Like
you
name it, and I've done it. I think
you've done cooking shows, obviously.
Yeah, I've done burlesque. I've done like I've done a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've done, you've been
Yeah.
in what, concert, television,
Yeah.
movies?
Yeah. So I switched out of that music education percussion program and became a theater major, and then I
Yeah.
realized I wanted to study musical theater. I kind of got bit by that bug, and I ended up transferring to a different school, and I got a musical theater degree. So I was pursuing that, like I wanted to be on Broadway and be an actor and do TV and everything. And then my voice teacher was like, "Oh, your voice kind of fits opera too. Like you should check this out." So I kind of set out on this split path, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I was always bartering with myself, like, okay, audition for Manhattan School of Music, but also audition for the National Tour of Oklahoma. And whichever one you get, that means that's the path you're supposed to do. And then I would get both. And I'd be like, damn, what do I do? You know, and then I realized, like, oh, you don't have to choose. You can do both, or, you know, whatever. And it was, my 20s were like a wild roller coaster ride of like, should I do opera? Should I do musical theater? I don't know. Let's switch back and forth every month. And then by the time I got in my 30s, I was like, oh, you can actually do both. And that's encouraged now.
That's awesome, because not
Yeah.
all operatic performers do musical theater.
Right. It's true. Well, and it's funny because a lot of people think of me as like this opera singer, and all my life I've been this like actor who's faking opera. And everyone's like, oh, you're that opera singer that sometimes does musicals too. And like, other way around, but I fooled you. Yeah.
Like, I'm really a juggler.
Yeah, like I know nothing about opera, and every time I do one, I'm learning new things. like, oh, singing in French, what's that? I guess we'll learn really quick. You know, it's like because I didn't do the training for opera, so it's like always something new.
I actually love that part of your story.
Thanks.
we try here on the podcast, we meet a lot of people that are just starting out in their art and are advanced in their art and at all stages in between.
Yeah.
And we're always encouraging people to dive in, do something, like, tell them you can juggle so that you can jump in and dive in and
You have
get those
to. Yeah.
opportunities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that that's your story and that you have made it this far doing just that. And
Thanks.
with
Well,
the talents you have.
I heard some stories of other people, so that, like, I heard this story when I was in college about Rebecca Luker, a famous Broadway actress who's no longer with us, unfortunately. But about she was auditioning for, I think, Meg in Phantom of the Opera, and they were like, "And you dance on point?" And she was like, "Absolutely," and then learned overnight how to dance on point for the callback. And yeah, I remember that being this like urban legend of Rebecca Luker in Phantom auditions, and how you should always just say yes and that you know how to do whatever they're asking. So it's like, yes, I juggle, I tap, yeah. Like recently I did Young Frankenstein, and it was there was going to be a tap audition for it. They were like, "We're interested in you for this role, but we want you to audition. We would need you to do a tap audition." And at the bottom of the email from the agent, from the casting director to the agent, it was like, "Please let us know if your client is offer only." And this is just something they say to like everyone always, but I'm never like, "Oh, offer only, I don't audition." But I was like, I think I need to tell them I'm offer only because I don't know how to tap dance, but I really want this role. But if I tell them I'm offer only, they can't ask me to tap dance for them, and I can just tell them I do, and then I can learn. And that's what I did. And
it gives you that time to learn.
Yeah, it's like I have a month to learn how to tap. Yeah, but it worked.
You hear about actors, film actors doing that all the time, where they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sure, I can ride a horse," and then they're running quick to take horseback riding lessons. And
yeah. But I guess it says something about your, I don't know, your confidence or stupidity that you're like, okay, sure, and then you always get to tell that story later after you do the job. You're like, I actually didn't know how to do this.
Right.
And it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually juggling peas in the middle of a produce aisle.
Yep.
So I haven't seen that show, but there must be juggling in it.
Akhenaten?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of juggling in it. It's this new production, and there's juggling throughout the entire show. And I just juggle in one scene, I honestly didn't even need to, but they thought it would be cool. So.
And now you can juggle.
Now I can juggle. I just did Billy Flynn in Chicago this weekend, and they were like, "Do you know how to juggle by chance? We'd love for you to juggle in Razzle Dazzle." And I was like, "I do, actually. Like, I really do."
For real this time.
Yeah, I'm not lying. Yeah.
What is the weirdest thing that you've been asked to do in a show that you had to learn how to do?
I mean, juggling was big. I guess that's not incredibly weird. I would say actually for Abraham Lincoln Robot, I had to learn how to do, street dance, like the robot, but like isolation street dance. So I worked on that, and I was so nervous about the singing of it that I overcompensated, and I was like, I have to be the best robot that has ever lived so they don't fire me because I can't sing over an orchestra. So I just went in like roboting, like, the best of them, like as if I had been a hip hop dancer my whole life. And yeah.
Because they have so many other robots to compare you to.
I mean, these things we tell ourselves sometimes
of course,
like, I'm going to get fired, imposter syndrome. And you're never just like, oh, it's going to be chill. They're going to work with me and it's going to be so nice and easy. It's always like, they're going to fire me on day one. I better be, I better have an ace up my sleeve.
Right.
But yeah.
It's funny how much imposter syndrome comes up on the show.
It's a big thing. Young, just out of school artist asked me about this yesterday. He was like, I have imposter syndrome. Like, how do I get over it? And I was just like, everybody has it. Like Beyonce has it. Everyone has it. Just like, no, you're not alone. And that's that. Like, we all have it. We all deal with it. It's a badge we wear, I think, and it comes and goes. Yeah. And then I was like, and also read Julia Cameron's The Artist Way, because that helps a lot. That helped me, that book.
Julia
So
Cameron's The Artist Away.
The Artist's Way.
Oh, The
Yeah.
Artist's Way. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I will have to pick that up.
Yeah, it's good. It's like a workbook, and it asks you some serious questions, and you have to answer them, and then like take yourself on artist dates and stuff, and journal.
Okay.
It's super cheesy, and also will change your life.
Okay. I'm here for cheesy.
Yeah,
I'm-
life-changing cheese.
that should be a new segment on our show. Like making cheese.
Yep.
That could be like our little we were talking about having like a sub, I don't want to call it a sub podcast, but it would be like under the umbrella of Modern Romantic, having like a series on the side under this umbrella that would be like talking about imposter syndrome, talking about fear, talking about
Yeah.
other aspects of art that people struggle with, or it's, you know, some kind of emotion that's involved with art and things like that, and just having open, honest conversations about those things and bringing people on that have insightful things to talk about, mindset coaches and whatnot, that maybe would help with some of that. So
Yeah, sure.
we can call it what did you say, Trey? Artist cheese? No, what was it? Inspirational cheese?
Life-changing cheese.
Life-changing cheese. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna let you keep going.
Just gonna flounder over here. Thank you.
Along the same lines of learning to do things like during a production, back in college, I had this friend, Nathan, if you're listening, hi, thank you for listening, but also I'm about to embarrass you. He couldn't whistle, and we were doing Albert Herring, and there's this big cadenza at the end of one of his arias that he got the role of, and had to learn how to whistle. Couldn't do it.
Wow.
So he kept trying and trying and trying. And so we went on break for a little bit. We come back, started rehearsals again. That man, in a week, learned how to whistle perfectly. And
Wow. Cool.
I was like, how dare you? How dare you show us up? And then he goes and wins Singer of the Year at like Nats.
Oh, cool.
And just, man, I love you, but also despise you.
Mhm. Whistling you have to do for so many roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sweeney Todd got a
Okay,
whistle.
yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Flynn got a whistle. Those are the two.
So you must be
That
able to whistle
I've
too.
done them. Yes, I can. Yeah, I love whistling. It annoys people, but I really like it.
So you were just in Florida doing Chicago? Is that right?
Yeah.
So you go from London to Mexico to Florida to be Billy Flynn, and then you're going now to Arkansas to direct a music video for a country star?
Yeah.
Okay, one, tell us about your experience as Billy Flynn, and then I need to know details about the country star.
Yeah, well, Billy was so fun. That style of singing, that 20s like jazzy, that's very much a home base for me. So it was really fun to do that on stage. And as you said earlier, my dad is a jazz guitarist, so I grew up with jazz all the time and jazz singers and listening to that style. So a lot of fun. I love doing musicals, especially I've been doing so much opera in the past 10 years. It's really nice to touch home base and do a musical where I feel like, I know what I'm doing, because they're just a little easier in some ways, or maybe my natural skills, so it feels easier. I don't know. But it was a lot of fun to play Billy and that style of singing, the acting. You get to dance a little bit, like all things I love. And yes, so I'm currently in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I'm directing 2 music videos this week for Bonnie Montgomery, who's Arkansas Country Music Artist of the Year, like many years in a row. She's kind of Arkansas royalty, and big in Texas also, in Nashville. And so I'm a big fan of hers, and she's actually also a composer and has written operas, and I produced one of them, so we became friends when I produced a workshop of her opera called Billy Blythe, about the teenage years of Bill Clinton in Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
Really beautiful piece. And it's like not even really about Bill Clinton. It's just like a coming of age story about a young man. Like, it doesn't even matter who it is. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. And yeah, we've been friends ever since. We've collaborated a lot over the years, and she's on my Christmas album with me doing some stuff. So
Cool.
she just signed with a new label, and she has an album coming out this fall. And she called me and was like, my label's letting me pick a director for my music videos, so you have to do it. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll be there.
That's so great.
Yeah. So, and I do love directing. It's something that I've done quite a bit of, but it's not something that it's not like what I'm known for, obviously, but it's something I really love to do. And I always say yes when I have the opportunity, just because I love collaborating with artists, and I love creating an environment where artists can do their best work. And it's not really like directing, it's like being a guardian of time and space. And that's something I really cherish.
Yeah. Sandra, our producer, is in Fayetteville right now as well.
Oh, cool.
So, and she asked, Walton Arts Center?
No.
Okay. I think she might have assumed you were performing.
Oh, no, I'm not.
So maybe that's why.
I mean, I might, you never know. I could end up, on a street corner.
Just impromptu
yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Why not?
But then later on this week, we go to Little Rock and film one of the videos at Whitewater Tavern, which is a famous venue here. And so we were location scouting today to confirm our locations for this outdoor shoot that we're doing Wednesday and Friday, which is really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a dream of mine too. I would love to be involved with music video more.
Yeah.
Because I've done costuming for them and wardrobe and stuff like that, but not like, and I've done like still photography for behind the scenes stuff, but not like, I want to direct one. I want to make
it.
Yeah.
Do it. I started doing them in the old pandemic because we didn't have, a stage to be on. So I started making my own music videos, and they were really wild, but it's a lot of fun. And such a unique form. And to me, it hits home because I grew up, I was born in 81. So like music videos were the thing. And it was like, it was like Michael Jackson's video is premiering at 9:00 tonight. And the whole family was around the TV, and it was like, what's he going to do this time? Oh my God. So
back when MTV was really
not
videos.
Yeah. Music videos, music television. Yeah. So it was like Michael Jackson and Madonna and Celine Dion and Meatloaf. Like that was like, oh my God.
Those were the days for sure.
Yeah.
If you could go back and be in one of those music videos, which one would you choose?
Well, that's easy. Celine Dion, It's All Coming Back to Me Now.
Yes.
That was such a great, quick answer. I love it.
I feel like someone's asked you that before.
No, I just knew.
How wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better. So
I wish we could somehow make that happen for you.
Well. Yeah.
But no, the video exists how it is, so we won't touch that.
I can close my eyes and be there.
Okay, so, that's good.
In every frame.
Celine, if you're listening today.
Celine, I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was,
And a rough week for Madonna too. A bacterial infection.
Saw that too. Yeah, we need to hang on to these people. We've lost too many of them.
Yes. Yeah.
We're putting a protective order on Dame Judi Dench, Dame Julie Andrews, Celine Dion, good old Babs, Barbara Streisand. So if
and
you're out there, and Madonna.
Yeah.
Cannot
I would
forget
like
Madonna.
to add Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen to that.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. There are probably others, and we're not going
to
share. Oh gosh.
We have Cher in the chat room. Cher.
We have Cher in the chat. Thank you, Cher, for listening.
Cher, we love you. Please sponsor us. We love you at theedmontron.com.
So I thought of this question earlier, and I was thinking about who your peers might be. And but what is one of your peers that like consistently blows you away?
Oh gosh.
Besides Cher.
In what? Give me a genre.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I was thinking I was thinking of singing.
Like classical.
Yeah, we'll go there.
Isabel Leonard.
Okay. Another quick
She's
answer. Good.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I don't know. I think about opera and classical singing, and I think about Beverly Sills and um, of course Maria Callas, and but this time when opera truly existed in pop culture, and you had like Beverly Sills on the Muppets and on the Carol Burnett show, and Ed Sullivan and everything, and I'm here just looking out for this cherished art form, and I'm like, okay, what's happening now, and how are we keeping it relevant, and what are we gonna do to keep it in pop culture and develop new audience and everything. And I look at an artist like Isabel Leonard, and I think she does that just by being the person she is. And then she's an exquisite artist and a really phenomenal actor. And I think acting is especially important as we develop new audience. I think acting in opera is as important as acting in musical theater now, and I think that's a good thing personally. But I do get in fights about this sometimes with people. So
Really?
yeah, a lot of people are like, it's just about the voice. It should only be about the voice. And I'm like, but you're telling a story, and you're wearing a costume, and there's lights in a set, and like tell a story.
There's a minimally facial expressions.
That can be a lot to ask. No.
Well, you
He's
won't
not
have that fight
lying.
here.
No, but everybody has different feelings about it,
Mhm.
and I think everyone's really defensive about opera right now because we're concerned about its future.
Sure.
I would say it's an endangered art form.
Yeah.
If we're looking at it the way we classify like species of animals, it's not extinct, but it's not just threatened; it's endangered.
Critically endangered.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I remember I went and saw Aida at the Met this past year, and it was like there were like 1,000 people there, and I confirmed that with the ushers, and it's almost 5,000 seat house, and it's like yikes, it's not going well.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny you brought up the Muppets too, and
yeah,
that's something that came up in conversation recently, and that was a lot of us learned about. We're gonna date ourselves here. A lot of us learned about classical music and some of these great pieces and opera from like Looney Tunes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if it weren't for those cartoons, then
yeah,
then we wouldn't know what those were. We might hear them in passing or in other productions of some kind, but like it was ingrained in
yeah,
us because of that.
yeah. And the next generation, it was like you would hear those things on commercials, maybe. Like I remember the
Right.
Lock May Flower Duet was on, like,
Yeah.
was it Virgin Atlantic or some airline commercial,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was like, okay, we got that now, but it was, yeah, it's not like used in an engaging story with like a cartoon rabbit. Come on, you
Right.
can't beat that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a conundrum. And also, like the Met, I always refer to the Met, but they're kind of a standard bearer for the industry,
Sure.
right? And it's the largest performing arts organization in the world. So it's, they put out the big statement recently that they're going to focus on contemporary works, which is really cool. I mean, that's where I live as an opera singer. That's my home, is contemporary works. So I'm excited to hear that. But it's a mixed bag. Some people are really excited about that. Some people are really threatened by that, and it's a big divide.
Without getting too political about it, why
Yeah.
do you think that is?
Well, that's kind of the same thing I was saying about singing or about acting in opera. It's like some people think it's just about the music. Some people are like, I want the full package. And it just depends on your standpoint, where you're coming from. Like my personal perspective, but coming from the theater first and getting into opera later. And also as a child, when the opera came on the radio on Saturdays, I was like, please turn it off. This is horrible. So I had this visceral negative reaction to it as a kid. I love it now, and I love doing it, and I love going to it. It's definitely the art form that I attend the most. But I don't know honestly why it is. There are the people who want to just hear Puccini and Mozart, and there are people who want a new experience and want to be challenged, and then there are the people that want both. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess it happens in all art forms, right? It's like you have New York City Ballet, and there's some people that just go to the Balanchine romantic things, and some people that are going to the Justin Peck modern things where they're wearing sneakers and streetwear. And I was at a performance of that recently, and you had the people complaining that they were wearing streetwear and sneakers, and they wanted to see the point shoes and the tutus, and then you have the younger people who are like freaking out that they're seeing this cool thing that they really respond to emotionally. So I don't know. I don't want to say it's a generational divide, but when you break it down and generalize, it kind of is in a way. But nonprofit arts, it's a tricky thing because it is, in the United States, of course, a patron supported form. It's not commercial like Broadway. So and it happens to be that the patrons who are giving the most money are an older generation, and that presents challenges. One being you want to cater to that audience. The other being, realistically, that audience is not going to be here much longer, and you're not developing a new audience. And the new audience that you are bringing in, they're not used to being asked for money and pledge drives and like, thank you for coming. Can you also give us $500 on your way out the door so you can see more of this? Because those people paid $25 for their tickets. So it's a big old mess. And I trust that we have a lot of brilliant minds working on it. But, I think the pandemic taught us that even when we don't have venues, and even when we're not getting paid, the artists still make the art, and it may be different than what people are used to seeing when artists start saying like, what do I want to create when I'm not being paid for this? Or what do I sing when I'm not being paid to sing? What do I like to sing? And then that was my experience anyway. And so while I'm very concerned about opera, I'm also like, okay, so close down every opera house, strip all the funding. The opera singers are still going to sing. And they're going to find a venue, and they're going to do what they want, and it's still going to exist. So
they're going to write their own operas. They're going to.
Yeah.
Have you thought of doing? Oh, I'm sorry, Trey.
No, go ahead.
Have you thought of writing your own opera? Or
yeah, for sure. Show? Yeah. I write some.
When will we get to hear it?
Sometime.
and go.
Sometime. No, yeah, I write, and I'm working on some stuff.
Good.
To your point, I think that's kind of where, like the podcast, like what we have is trying to help bridge that gap. A lot of that is what I see from my personal perspective. Soapbox coming out. From my personal perspective, I see it as not reaching them through the modern mediums of things. You mentioned them coming in sneakers in more casual wear versus those like on Broadway that are currently doing a lot of TikToks of behind the scenes sorts of things. They're doing lots of talkbacks with their audience, and they're doing a lot of engagement activities, or with a podcast like this, talking to a wide variety of different artists to make them aware of all the different mediums that are out there.
Right.
We've had everyone from a blacksmith to now an opera singer, and we're about to have a chef on later this month. And so it spans such an incredible audience that I think we're trying to help bridge that gap between what is missing out and bringing on a new generation to find something that's new.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important, and they all are part of a rich cultural landscape, right? Like all the arts really kind of rise together,
What we always do this, Emily.
What happened?
We always think we're both about to ask a question at the same time. No, you go, man. It's fine.
So from your perspective, if you were to look at the current audience of like the up and coming, what kind of advice would you give them for those that are looking to either go into an opera for the first time, go into musical theater for the first time, as an audience member?
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give them?
Be prepared to be surprised. Go in, uh, basically. I mean, I love first time opera goers, and especially when I get them to some of my, more contemporary things, because they're like, "Whoa, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be." It's like, yeah, it's cool, right? And and because people often, I find, think like they have to research and know a language and have something formal to wear, and the tickets are going to be really expensive. And I love kind of introducing people to the idea like, no, you don't have to know anything about it walking in. You can wear whatever you want. We're just happy you're there. And I truly mean that when I say it. Like, I don't care what you come in, like, just come. We want to share with you. Come as you are. And that there's accessible ticket prices. I love, I often ask for extra comp tickets, and I like to find people in the communities I'm performing in to give them tickets. Like, even if I'm at, like, Joanne Fabric's like, hey, do you want a ticket to my show this weekend? I actually have a comp, because you end up striking up conversation with people while you're traveling in the grocery store or whatever. And it's really meaningful to get people to things, and then to engage with them afterwards and, like, ask them what they think. And oftentimes they're blown away, and then you can be like, do you think it's something you would go to again? Like, would you, and I like to also be like, please reach out to me, like, if you ever want recommendations on what to see. If you look at the Met season and you're overwhelmed by the 30 choices, like, I would be so thrilled to guide you on your selection of shows. And so yeah, I would just say go in with an open mind, open heart, and be prepared to be surprised. And also, it's not just about, like, necessarily what is on stage and liking it or not liking it. It's about the shared live experience of being in a room with thousands of strangers and experiencing the same thing at the same time. Because I'm one that doesn't like rehearsal much, because I feel like I feel so weird and fake performing for no one. Like, there's no people here. Like, what are we doing? This is weird. Like, for me, it's not. It doesn't happen until the audience is there, because they're half of the experience, and we are kind of having this cyclical relationship of giving and receiving, which is really important for the energy of a performance. So yeah, just get in there, go see things for free, see whatever. There's so much going on, and all the arts are just like, please come, especially after the pandemic. It's like, please return.
Yeah.
Hey, new people, we have this cool thing over here, please come. And so, and the Broadway scene has changed too. Things are closing early now, and like, we just saw a Broadway show starring Audra McDonald close, like, very early. That's never happened before. It's things are a little funky right now. So, and the formula isn't set anymore. It's like, it's not like, oh, this always works. Things have changed. So I think everybody's trying to figure out what works now and what people want to see. And I'm finding people really want to be entertained and laugh and experience joy, and that, like, communal laughter is a really healing thing. So that's definitely been guiding me in the pieces that I've chosen to do recently. I'm kind of like, I don't want to do the piece about the war. I want to do the one where we say fart jokes.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do the funny one.
Like, I can't blame you. Those are the.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you that.
Like, I just want to laugh.
We need humor right now.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Too dark.
Yeah.
As a very multifaceted sort of person, and as a multifaceted artist, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
1, do you ever get any free time?
I mean, no. I was just thinking about that as I was checking into my hotel today, because one of my friends was like, are we still friends?
Oh.
And it's like, yeah, we haven't talked in like a month. I'm sorry. Like, I haven't been alone in about 5 weeks now, because I've been traveling with people or at my family home or doing a show or whatever. So yeah, I don't really get a lot of free time. I find my free time is, like, just if I'm home in New York and I'm not working, and I get, like, a day where I can leave my phone inside and be out in my garden, that's a really precious moment, basically, when I don't have to talk to anyone and I can just, like, have my hands in the dirt. That's the best. But I love what I do so much, and I tried to quit in the pandemic. I was like, all right, that's that, time for a real job in health insurance. And I applied for like hundreds of jobs, and I got 2 interviews and no jobs. And then a bunch of other things in my life happened. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll stick with this thing that I know, since I don't know how to do anything else. And I guess I'm pretty okay at it. So whatever, you know. But then returning to the stage and returning to a live audience. My first show back was Man of La Mancha playing Don Quixote, and that was just like life changing. And it had been 19 months since I had been in front of a live audience, and that was the most I had gone since I first stepped foot on stage in high school, right? So it was so like deeply emotional to be. We were out in this amphitheater, like a giant amphitheater, because of social distancing, like where like Lizzo plays, you know, and we're like doing our little play. And it was deeply emotional, and also just to bring the message of that show in that moment, unforgettable. Like one of the best live, you know, sharing music and words experiences of my life. And in that moment I was like, oh yeah, I will never leave this. This is what I do. That's that.
Good decision.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, yeah, good times and bad times, like you just do this. This is what you do. That's that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Nope.
I was just gonna say, you have to do what you have to do. So like, if you ended up selling insurance, but I would rather, you know, come see one of your shows instead of buying insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather wear wigs and costumes than that's what I've been doing since like I was 3. Why would I change that? So yeah.
A little bit of a course correction, because Emily also likes to work in her garden. So I do have to ask, what
Gardening.
is currently in your garden?
Well, I have a garden that doesn't always have me there. So it's I mean, the really cool thing is, so I have this apartment in Harlem, and it's a very tiny apartment, but with a private garden.
Oh, nice.
And it's very special to me to have that outdoor space in Manhattan, but also very special to me. I feel this responsibility as like the steward of this small little parcel of land, because I'm the first person to ever have it as a garden. It was previously the trash area for the building.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and they knocked a window out and turned it into a door and cleared the trash out and made it, you know, this shabby little garden. So I nabbed it and moved in, and I transformed it into this oasis. And so all to say, it's very special to me, but I'm also not there a lot. And so I have it's like a zone 7B proper garden that thrives on its own. I'm not growing vegetables or anything. It's a lot of fir trees and stuff that lasts through the winter. So it's green no matter when I'm there, and it's very special. I have a little fire pit.
That's awesome.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And it's actually inspired by I was really inspired by the gardens I saw in Japan. So a lot of it is very Japanese inspired. And I have my fence is not shu sugiban, but it looks like it, like the Japanese wood burning technique.
Yeah.
I built it and I stained the wood to look like that. So it's like very
cool.
Yeah, it's cool. That's my secret oasis.
You heard it here, folks.
Yes.
You can find him at his secret oasis.
And I'll never give you the address.
The other question that I had is, when do you consider a performance a success?
When you live through it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, kind of though, because this year marks this well, now is it July now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so June just marked my 20th year in showbiz professionally. My first gig was June 2003 at the Bucks County Playhouse in Pennsylvania, doing summer stock. And so, but all to say, I've been doing this 20 years now, which is weird to wrap my head around, but also that I still get nervous and I still get like fight or flight. And my body, I got on stage and my body's like, no, what are we doing here? I'm going to sweat and tremble and freak out and want to vomit. And it's like, that's just part of my process now. So in a way, like just surviving is successful. and that's the low bar that I keep for myself. Yeah. But if we want to take it above the low bar, I would say when I don't know, it surprises me when the reactions. Sometimes you're just like I have a solo show I did for several years, and I did it in all sorts of venues: big theaters, small theaters, people's living rooms, galas, whatever, like poolside in Hawaii at weird mansions, like all sorts of weird places. Um, and you never know when you're going to touch someone in a moment of their life that they need it. And I remember specifically doing that show. It was a big switch for me to go from being on stage with lights to being like 3 feet away from people, and there's like 100 people crammed into someone's living room for like a special concert, and looking in people's eyes while singing, and kind of realizing like, oh, there's nowhere to hide, you're on, and you have to like actually connect with these 100 people that you've never met and don't know. And I have had experiences with that particular show where I'm singing Some Enchanted Evening or If Ever I Would Leave You, which are two of my favorite things to sing. But looking out into people's eyes and they start weeping, and at first I was like, oh gosh, I'll look away, this is a private moment. But I kind of learned to like connect with them even deeper. And sometimes it means like walking up to them, and when I sing If Ever I Would Leave You in that show, I walk around the room and I sing individually to people and try to hit everyone in the room. Not hit physically, but hit to touch them with my music.
It's a different show entirely.
And so yeah, it's very different. Yeah, just connecting with people in that way. But all to say, when I see people having those emotional reactions, I know it's not really about me. It's about them and a memory they're connecting with. And I've learned that because these people have come up to me and they've been like, that was me and my husband's song, and he died a couple weeks ago, and it was like he was next to me tonight when you sang that. And it, or I'm singing Some Enchanted Evening and I see like every person grab their partner's hand in the room and they like look at each other, and it's something that's really special. I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. We're just kind of like translating this material that people wrote in the 40s into our voices, and it goes out into the air, and then it's picked up as an emotion and lives in someone's heart. And that's just like why we do it, right? So that's to me the most successful performance. It's just like somebody got something out of it that made them feel something that they needed to feel to like transform a little bit or move forward with more peace or love in their hearts. That was a really long answer.
No,
Great.
that is great. So for me, like done performances, done those sorts of things, and I've kind of taken a step back from the theater world, just a little bit. For you to give advice to someone who is just getting started actually performing, we talked earlier about going in as an audience member, and those that are up and coming performers. What advice do you have for them?
Up and coming performers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was starting out, I made this commitment to myself to do something every day toward my art.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it meant organizing my audition book or like making labels for my binder of songs. And it wasn't always like practicing, it wasn't always taking a class or a lesson, but just doing something every day. And it's mostly just as a gesture to yourself, a little tiny token of like, hey self, I believe in you and this crazy goal you have. Because it's really easy to get wrapped up in just trying to survive. And I just always thinking about when I first moved to New York, and my first 6 months were so hard, and I was just like scraping by, begging, borrowing, stealing, holes in my shoes, like getting to the subway and the card doesn't work, and you're like, crap, I don't have the money to get home. What do I do now? And working like 3 jobs and all that. And I just remember getting swept up in that just like surviving thing. And I was like, oh yeah, but I also have this goal. So, and this crazy passion and desire to do this thing. So what are we doing to tend to that? Because that's kind of how you survive emotionally, you know? It's like, it's easy to think about just like food on the table and rent, but it's like, what are you doing for your heart and for your spirit? Um, and I would also say one of the biggest pieces of advice I got came from my voice teacher, who I'm still with 21 years later. Um, and she said to me shortly after I graduated and I was coming back from lessons, she was like, that, that's all great. You sound fine. Sure, that's hireable, but it's not incredibly special because you're just, singing it pretty, and lots of people sing it pretty. But when are you going to decide to be an artist and not just a student of the arts? And I was like, oh my God, and she was like, I mean, what do you have to say? Why are you singing this song? Why is it important to you to sing this song right now? And in hearing that too, I kind of thought, well, like, yeah, I don't like this song. Like, why am I singing it? So I put it away and started a quest and went to the New York Public Library of the Arts and like looked for new songs and stuff that I wanted to sing, but it's like finding your little bit of inspiration and also keeping your ears and eyes open for those messages. Because she could have said that to me and it could have gone right out the other ear. But it's like kind of like keep yourself humble and be open to the messages you're hearing. Another piece of advice I got was from an acting teacher, and he said, if you hear the same thing like 3 times, let's say, like if you're hearing the same thing over and over again, like you have to take it and own it. So if somebody's like, oh, you're always doing this weird habit on stage, and like 3 different directors are telling you, you have to be like, okay, I need to address that. So know who your champions are and seek out their support and guidance, and watch out for the bullies, but also, yeah, tend to your spirit and always be growing and learning.
That's a great answer.
Thanks. It's just things people told me. It's not my own wisdom. But that's what it is though, right? I mean, and that's where it's like, yeah, someone told me this and now I'm telling you this, and you're going to tell someone this.
But I think it's different from just hearing it and regurgitating it versus having experienced it and seeing the truth of that and then speaking that truth back out. Kind of like learning the songs that you can learn a song and you can sing it pretty, but you choose to give it meaning every time that you sing it. So you're giving it a sense of truth.
Right. And connecting yourself in a personal way to it. And yeah, I mean, I think a big challenge is like, how do I take this role or this song or this show and that wasn't written for me and make it as if it was, like this difficult song that I'm not enjoying singing, or this role I have to do that I'm not really connected to. How do I connect to it in a way that it feels like it was written for me, and that I am actually, with Man of La Mancha, I had this weird dream where Cervantes came to me in a dream because I was having major imposter syndrome, and I was like, this role is too hard. I can't do this role. I can't be on stage for an entire show telling this story. This is too much. Yeah. And Cervantes, I had this dream where Cervantes was like, out of everyone in the world, I chose you to play this role. And and I woke up and I was like, Cervantes, was that a dream or did you just appear at my bedside? But I was kind of like, yeah, like I was cast in this role out of everyone in the world right now at Opera Saratoga, so we're going to do it. And that's the job. Like, you're the one they chose. Like, get over yourself. Stop indulging in your, ego and fear, and just like do the role, learn, connect with it. And then it felt like it was written for me, because I was like, no, just how do you make this line that you don't understand work? Like, work on it more, work harder.
Yeah. How do you own it?
Yeah. And how do you connect to it in a new way? And sometimes that's like going back and watching other people's interpretations, and sometimes it's just like, connecting something from your own life and saying something totally new that no one's thought about.
I think that advice can be applied to a lot of different art too.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
We've all
Yeah.
been put in situations where it's like, okay, go. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I photographed people and places and things that I haven't felt behind. It's not feeling right to me. How do I make this work? How
Mm-hmm.
do I own this and make it my own? Same with costuming too. And, I'm not feeling the project. How do I make this my own?
Yeah.
So,
I'll say apropos of that, I was at a after show talk back while I was doing the Addams Family, I think with a school group, and somebody asked how you what did they ask? Like how you keep it fresh 8 times a week, and what your favorite show is that you've ever done. And BB Newworth, who is playing Morticia, was like, it's really important that whatever show you're doing at that moment, that is your favorite show and your favorite role. And I'll never forget that, because I knew that that show and role wasn't her favorite, but she was living that too, and I could tell when I watched her perform. I was like, wow, you really are living that challenge that you put out for yourself, and just making it work. Because at the end of the day, the writer's not out there with you, the director's not out there with you. Like, it's just you out on stage, and you're kind of solely responsible for all the material in that moment.
yeah, and I think there's something about when you own it and you can master it, it makes you feel better about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I learned that working in retail because I hated doing inventory.
Sure.
And so I decided I was going to be the best at inventory, so that when I went in to do it or to handle any inventory issue, that I was just going to be that good so that I could go in and tackle it and just be done quicker.
Did you enjoy it more?
Yes. I enjoyed being the master of something. I enjoyed being able to walk in and go, all right, this here, this there, done.
Totally. It feels great.
It does. I still don't love it, but here we are.
All right, but two things. One, watching her apply the same thing to her photo shoots is an incredible work of art, because it's like, I need you here and I need this here. I don't like the look of this, so let's go pull this here, and has an incredible vision. But also, two, can walk into a room and start assessing the processes of things that are incorrect.
Incorrect.
Wrong.
I'm just kidding. I don't do it.
She just walks up to everyone. She puts just a soft hand on their shoulder. You're doing this whole thing wrong.
Yeah.
No, I would never do that.
That's what we all need.
But no, it is incredible to watch your artistic mind at work, because of the things that you've done previously. I think informs a lot of the things that you do in your other life. So it is really nice to watch you do that. And so you have transferable skills from that into a lot of your artistry, and that's one of the things that I respect about you.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Because I'm going to make you cry on this podcast again.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
He's talking to you. Yeah.
Yes, Emily.
Thank you.
I think everything informs everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was working as a administrative assistant for my first 6 months in New York, and organizing other people's lives at a time where I really wasn't organized, but it taught me how to be organized, and that helped me a lot in my career path. Because it's like, if you don't know, when the audition is, at what place, at what time, when you need to leave your house, and how you need to dress, and what materials you need to bring with you, you're not going to get the job. It's not just about the talent at that point.
Right.
So, yeah.
Two fun questions, and then we will wrap. And I like these questions because when we were brainstorming, we were like, yes. First one, night on the town. You're in your favorite city. You go to a karaoke bar. What's your song of choice?
I'm going to do Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Simon and Garfunkel.
Ooh, excellent choice. Excellent choice. And then what is one moment from a show that you've done that makes you feel the most fulfilled?
Oh God. The end of Akhenaten, this production that I've done like almost 50 performances of now. I'm on stage most of that show. I think I get 10 minutes off in 3 hours.
Wow.
And when I'm done speaking and like 6,000 words have happened and I've carried a dead man and I've juggled and I've, given everything I have, there's just nothing left. And I get to still stand on stage for about the last 10 minutes in silence and just look out at the audience, and I try to connect with everyone in a general way because I can't really see them individually.
Sure.
But it's a really fulfilling, beautiful thing for me to just stand on stage for those 10 minutes and be full of an energy and be kind of like sending something out, receiving something back, but also have nothing else to do, because so much of the time on stage, it's just the way it is. Like, I am fearful I'm going to mess something up or be in the wrong, say the wrong thing or whatever and make a mistake. And there's no mistake I can make in that moment. And I just get to kind of radiate my energy to the audience and receive that back. And it is really meaningful. And I cherish it.
I love that. It's awesome.
Good answer.
Yeah. Like, it's just about the space between us, which is, I think, the most magical thing about performance.
Indeed.
Well, Zach, I have loved having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for being here. May I just say, this is one of my dreams to be able to interview you.
Well, thanks. I'm blushing.
So yeah, this was those moments that you were talking about. Yeah, this is one of those for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure, and yeah, been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I'm glad we're not, buying insurance from you instead.
And I didn't tell you what jobs I was interviewing for. It wasn't insurance. Yeah, there's lots of things, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, to make sure that our listening audience is able to connect with you, can you let us know some of the social media platforms you're most active on?
Yeah, Instagram is my biggie, and I'm there at the official Zachary James. And yeah, I tweet a bit, etc. But I'm on the TikTok and the Facebook, easy to find, and pretty there. You can find me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also your website, zachjames.com.
Yeah, that old thing.
That's
Does anyone go to those anymore?
I mean, I did.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for visiting today.
Well, this episode, along with probably every episode, always is in memory of Joe Capone, our moderator, fellow comedian, passionate encourager, and greatly missed friend. You can find us pretty much wherever you tune into podcasts. For updates, announcements, and more, please follow us on social media under Modern Romantic.
Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to juggle your peas.
Peace.
Love you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.